Well, good morning, Fellowship Church. It's so good to be back with you guys today, and I agree, there is a hurricane of grace here, and you should do everything you can to guard that and encourage that, because that is not the way it is every place, and so it is my pleasure to be back with you guys this morning. I do have a question for you, though, today, and that is this: can you spot a fake? I mean, think about it for just a second. Can you spot a fake? Can you know when that phishing email comes in? Are you able to identify whether that's something you should click on or not? Are you able to determine whether somebody's trying to scam you or not? Are you able to determine whether or not what you're seeing is real or not real? And let's be honest, it's getting more difficult to do that, isn't it? Especially with AI that's out there and all the emails that come and the phone calls. My dad is constantly telling me about something on Facebook that he's concerned about, or he's getting a text about some tolls that he needs to pay in Kansas for some reason, and my dad doesn't even leave the town that he's in, but he's concerned about it because he's worried. Is it a fake? Is it real? And so I guess it really depends on a couple of things. Number one, it really depends on the quality of the fake, right? It depends on the quality of the fake, and it also depends on your familiarity with the authentic. In other words, how good is that fake? How much time, energy, and effort was put into that? Because the more that time and energy that's put in that to fake you out, it's going to be harder for you to tell, right? But also, the more comfortable that you are with what is real, the more difficult it's going to be for somebody to scam you on something. For instance, let's think about this. Suppose you've been invited to your child or your grandchild's elementary school, and they put you in charge of the concession stand. And they ask you only to take cash. It may be the last place in the world that you might be able to only take cash. Everything else is digital, right? But suppose that you're there and a child comes up and they bring you this and they try to buy a candy bar with that. You're probably not going to accept that, right? Because you know that's just not a very good fake. I mean, there's not even a president's face on there or somebody, right? So you know that this is not a good fake. But suppose that it's International Week at that elementary school, and the students can only use international currency at the concession stand, and somebody brings you one of these. Can you identify which one of these three is a fake note from a country? Well, most of us probably are not going to be able to identify any of those things, and those actually are, by the way, real currency. Those are real banknotes in different countries. In fact, there's a competition for the most beautiful banknote, and a couple of years ago, these were the finalists, and so I didn't even know there was a competition. But can you identify which one of these is a counterfeit, which one of these is fake in all of this? Well, the truth is all of them are real and legitimate. But because you don't know what looks real, it's going to be very difficult to identify what is real. So that leads me to conclude this, that all of us are fooled some of the time. In the world that we live in, we're just going to be fooled sometimes. We're going to be buying fake stuff occasionally, not even knowing it. But I want you to be aware of also that there are some people out there who are being fooled all of the time. And that's okay, kind of, when it comes to money and finance, because, I mean, really, it's important for sure, but there's something else that's happening in our culture, and it may be happening even in here, and that is that some of us are being fooled into worshiping fake gods. And sometimes all of us are sometimes fooled into that. But there are some people out there that are being fooled into worshiping fake gods all of the time. Now, I know this is going to be a little controversial, because you're going to sit there and you're going to go, wait a minute, who are you, first off? Who got you up on the platform? You don't even know me. And then second, how can you come in here and say and accuse us of worshiping a fake God? I'm in church. What are you talking about? I don't worship any fake gods. I'm here. And yet I'm going to challenge you today, and I'm going to argue, maybe not persuasively, but I'm going to try to convince you that maybe sometimes you are ending up being faked into worshiping a false god. In fact, I'm going to argue that maybe you and I sometimes have a tendency to worship fake gods even more than the people in the darkest forest of Peru today, or those that are in that first Roman century where there were gods and carved images everywhere. I'm going to argue that maybe you and I are actually worshiping fake gods to a greater intensity than them, and even to those that were ancient people that we're going to study about today. If you've got your Bibles, we're going to be in the book of Exodus today. We're going to be in Exodus chapter 20, and we're really going to look at Exodus chapter 20 verses chapter 20 all the way through chapter 34, but our time is limited, so we're going to focus on chapter 20, but let me identify to you where we are when we pick up in the middle of the story in Exodus. In Exodus chapter 20, at this point, Charlton Heston has already led the people out of Yul Brynner's circumstances, okay? Everybody catch up with me on that one? I may have to explain that to the third service, but I thought it was shorthand here in the first service, okay? You got to be contextual, right? But the people have already been released from Egypt, and they have left. They have crossed the Red Sea, and they've spent about 40 days, 45 days, 50 days in some kind of that context to arrive at a place called Mount Sinai, right? So they've had this great victory. They're still trying to figure things out, and they come to Mount Sinai, and at this moment, that is where God, the God who freed them from their bondage, the God they have been praying to do something, has done something now, and he brings them to Mount Sinai, and he's going to have a conversation with them. Now, that conversation is going to be an extended conversation. In fact, we believe that the Israelites are going to be at Mount Sinai for about 11 months. Now, they don't know that in chapter 20, but they're going to be there for an extended time. And their leader, a guy by the name of Moses, is going to go up to the mountain, talk to God, come back down to the mountain, and talk to the people, okay? And he's going to do this multiple times. And based on how you read the scriptures, it could be 7 times he's going to do this. It might have been 8 times. But he's going to go up to the mountain, and all the people stay. And these were a lot of people. This is not just 200 or 300 people. These are thousands and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people that are there. And he's going to go up to the mountain, have a conversation with God, come back down and talk to the people. And that's what he's done. He's going to do this 6, 7, 8 times among this context in this 11 months. Well, he initially goes up in chapter 19, and he talks to God, and God says, hey, I am going to be your people's God if they agree to this covenant, if they agree to this agreement. And so Moses gets the information from God, comes down to the people, and says, God's willing to be your God if you will be his people. And they respond, yes, that's what we want. We will obey God. And God says, okay, as a result of that, you're going to be a special people, and you're going to be priests for me, a kingdom of priests that are going to be out there communicating to the world. And they say, this is great, this is awesome. So then he comes up and then brings back the rules or the obligations or the covenant of how this is going to happen. And we find that in chapter 20 of Exodus. That's where we are, okay? So in Exodus chapter 20, and God spoke all of these words. He says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and brought you out of the land of slavery. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on earth below, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them to worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children of the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. So there's a judgment here, but there's also a blessing and a promise and God's forgiveness and love and mercy. It's always the same. When God brings judgment, there's always opportunity until at some point in the future there will not be. So these are days when God's punishment comes that we have opportunity to respond to that. There's coming a day when we will not have that opportunity. That's why we must work. That's why this hurricane of grace must continue to grow and expand in this community, because there's coming to a time where people will have no other option. But today is the option. So he says in verse 6, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me, 1,000 generations, and keep my commandments. Now, this is what we typically think of when we think about having a fake God. This is the verse that we kind of think about, and we go, wait a minute, Neil, we don't fall for those kind of bad fakes. I mean, none of us worship idols. None of us have carved images, though we spend a lot of energy and effort on royals and chiefs and tigers and jayhawks and razorbacks and all kinds of things. We spend a lot of time, energy, emotion, and are tied into that. But that's not what we're really talking about here for us. But for them, God says, you can't make an image of me. You can't make a carven image and worship that. And you go, well, Neil, we don't do that. That's why I don't understand what you're talking about to say that we worship fake gods. But do you know there are people in the world who still do that, who fall into that? Let me introduce you to one. This is the Hukila. You may not be familiar with her. But we used to do some mission projects, my family and our church, in a place called Oaxaca, Mexico. And Oaxaca is a beautiful place. If you get a chance to go to Oaxaca, it is an amazing place to go. They've got great mole. If you really like a mole sauce, unbelievable there. If you like chapulines, they also have those as well. Chapulines are fried grasshoppers. And so if you haven't had a fried grasshopper, you might try one. I would encourage you to get the smaller ones, not the bigger ones, because the bigger grasshopper, the little legs get caught in the back of your teeth, and it's a whole different situation. But we were doing mission work in Oaxaca because that is an area that's very mountainous. And because of that, the Spanish did not conquer all of the people in the upper mountains. And so there are still people who are speaking their native language because Spanish is not necessarily native to Mexico. It's kind of hard to think about. But we were doing some mission work and going in the mountains, and we were encouraging and training Mexicans, national Mexicans, to go into these people language groups, and they would be cross-cultural missionaries. Why send a bunch of Caucasian Americans to do this? Why don't you find somebody close to that relationship? And so they would go into the mountains, and they would speak the language, live among the people, and try to reach them. Well, in the 1500s, there was a mission that went to reach these people, and they brought a Virgin Mary doll to the people to encourage the people and try to teach them about Mary and the Catholic Church and ultimately about Jesus Christ and salvation. And that doll was a beautiful doll. It had a beautiful white painted face on that doll. But in a particular region in that area, there was a fire because they were trying to burn the crops off, and the fire got out of hand, and that fire swept through that entire area and burned everything except for this doll, supposedly, in the chapel. And that doll, because of the smoke and the fire, her face turned brown, was charred. The people thought that was a miraculous sign and began to worship and pray to her. And in fact, today she is in one of the churches in that area. They built a special cathedral for her, and people come and bring sacrifice to her. And in the mountainsides, they will bring what I consider to be like little Christmas ornaments of areas of their life that they need prayer for. So in other words, if their arm hurts, you would buy a little arm that's a Christmas ornament, if you will, and you would take it and you would pray to the Hukila so that she might heal your arm. Or if you've got a knee problem, you'd bring a knee. They had some quite strange things that you really probably don't want to put on your Christmas tree, but brother-in-laws, mother-in-law, all that kind of stuff right there that you want to put on there. But they came and they were worshiping, they were praying to this idol. And of course, this is the command that we're not supposed to do in what is considered the second of the 10 commandments, right? And you and I go, well, we don't do that. But let me caution you. Why is it that we don't do that? Well, in that region, it's probably in some ways because of the medical advances, right? I mean, just imagine if you were sick and you didn't have a hospital to go to, or if you were sick and you didn't have any medical treatment, what would you do? You would pray to just about anything to help yourself avoid pain or to help that loved one accomplish that. In fact, we kind of do that too a little bit when the doctors say there's nothing we can do, and we begin to pray to another level. So let's be really careful of this, because all of us have this tendency. John Calvin said it this way: the human heart is an idol factory. We can create all kinds of things if we're not careful. Actually, Calvin didn't say this. He said our heart is a forge for idols, but most of us don't use a forge, so that kind of gets translated to a factory. It's kind of the same concept. And you and I would not necessarily be guilty of this one, because even though we really have our own idols in some sense, none of us really pray to Patrick Mahomes to help our arm get better, do we? We don't pray to Andy Reid. We don't pray to the Rock Chalk Jayhawk in our house to get better, right? So we don't do that. But the real problem is not that we're breaking the second commandment, but that we're breaking the first commandment. And what is that first commandment? Well, we skipped it in this context because it's actually in verse 3. And here's what the first commandment says: you shall have no other gods before me. And while you and I think of fake gods, maybe being idols or something like that, this is the one that we fall for, oftentimes not even recognizing that we're falling for. What do I mean? Well, what is an idol? What is a fake god? Well, let me say it this way. John Piper says it this way: an idol, or a fake god, because I think we can use fake god or idol interchangeably in this context. A fake god is anything that we come to rely on for some blessing or help or guidance in the place of a wholehearted reliance on the true and living God. Let me read that again. That's really important because a lot of us may come to worship and we trust in our job to take care of us. We come to church and we worship God, but we really trust in our health to keep us satisfied. And this particular theologian argues that an idol is anything that we come to rely on for some blessing or help or guidance in the place of a wholehearted reliance on the true and living God. Another great theologian said it this way. Tim Keller said it this way. What is an idol? He has a great book on idols as well. What is an idol? It is anything more important to you than God, anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God, anything you seek to give you what only God can give. Can you begin to see how at least I can make an argument that you and I worship fake gods? Because some of these things are not necessarily bad when you look at them. Some of these things can actually be pretty good, but when we become to rely on them, that's where we move from something that is beneficial and a blessing of God to a substitute God when we trust them. The other great theologian of our day said this: an idol makes a promise, demands tribute, which is a high price, and can't produce. Yet we keep going back, making more tribute, hoping for a different result from that fake God. See, a fake God makes a promise, demands something from you costly, and then can't produce, can't provide, can't make it happen. I think of it this way. Imagine that you were going to a great carnival, and you go down that midway, and there are flashing lights everywhere. And there's signs that are there. Now they're digital signs, and they're saying all these wonderful things that you've got to have, right? You need the 6-foot-long corn dog hot dog thing that's there, right? You really need the fried Oreos. Come get the fried Oreos. You do need to get the fried butter. I mean, these are things that are calling you out and saying you need the funnel cake. And then in the old times, you had people that were barkers. You know what barkers are? They're the people who say, hey, come over here, look at this. This is going to be great. You got to have this. Hey, come on, you need this. And imagine that us, people, and particularly those who don't have any religious affiliation in their home, they grow up without any kind of insight into this. They're just walking through life, and all of these things are calling out, demanding their attention, wanting things from them. And what are they wanting? Well, I think for most of us, basically there's 3 things we all want. And I call it this way, and I know that you're a very advanced congregation, so I used really big words that are hard to spell on your chart here, okay? I should have filled those in for you. But I think all of us are looking for these 3 things. We're looking for exhilaration, we're looking for confirmation, and we're looking for protection. And when you grow up, all of us are looking for these things, and without a God relationship, without a connection to people of faith, people walk through life, and through life there are people, and it begins before elementary school even, where they're calling out and saying, hey, you want exhilaration? Come here. Want confirmation? Come here. Oh, you want protection? Come here. What do I mean by these things? Well, exhilaration is this. Exhilaration is we want to feel good. I mean, don't you want to feel good? Some of you actually want to feel great. I'm to the age that feeling good is awesome. Can I just get to good, right? That would be incredible. Some of you are just, if I could just feel again, that would be really nice. If I could just feel my toes, that would be really nice, wouldn't it? If I could just see my toes, that would be kind of nice too, right? But there's a time where we want to feel something, and we want to feel a rush. We want to feel adrenaline. We got to feel good in this life. We want to feel good, and so people call out, hey, you want to feel good? Well, have I got something for you? Right? And it can be anything, right? You want to feel good? Hey, I got a pill for you if you want to feel good. Right? I've got this career for you if you want to feel good. I've got this adventure you want to go on if you want to feel good. If you want to feel good, hey, there's an adrenaline rush when you sneak out of your house. So you want to, let's sneak out of our house. And all these barkers come, all these people saying, hey, I can fill that need for you if you'll just follow me. Then there's another category, and that's confirmation. I want to be okay. I mean, don't you want to be okay? Don't you want to look around and go, you know what, I'm doing okay, right? I'm doing great. Schools are a great place to teach this to people, right? Because they give you a grade on everything, don't they? Teacher gives you a grade. No, teachers don't give you a grade. They just keep score. That's what my teachers always told me. We don't give grades. We just keep score, right? But you decide whether you're okay, right? Whether I get an A or a B or a C. And really the grade doesn't matter. It's what the person you're competing with. It's what their grade was, right? And then you get out of school and they don't grade you anymore. Well, maybe your spouse does. But outside of that, how am I doing compared to everybody else? What's my grade? And so we substitute that number for another number oftentimes. That's a financial number, or it's a car number, or it's a boat number, or it's a clothing number, or it's a house number. And we substitute that to see if we're okay, because all of us want to be okay at some point, right? I mean, aren't we okay? Am I okay? Am I doing all right? And there's a third category, though, and this is the protection. Everybody wants to be safe. Am I safe? Is this okay? Am I safe here? Is it okay? We sometimes even substitute this for security. Am I secure? If the market goes up, am I going to be okay? Am I going to have enough money before I die? Am I going to have any money before I die? Am I going to run out of money? Right? This is the one that I really struggle with because, like I said, I don't care about feeling great. I just want to feel okay, right? And am I okay? I think I'm okay. Is that all right? It's this one that gets to me because I want security. I may have even told the story of buying a ring for my wife. Did I tell you that story here? I can't remember. My wife wanted a ring for her 30th anniversary, our 30th anniversary, and I'm thinking, that's dumb. Why would you want a ring, honey? Now what I said was, let's go get a ring. That's what I said. Because we've been married for 30 years, and that's how you stay married for 30 years, right? But I'm like, a ring, we got to buy this, you need a new car, we got this payment we got to make, we got to do this. That's dumb to go buy a ring. And so I would go to the ring store, and rings are expensive, especially for 30th anniversary type rings, right? Okay, this is a different level of ring. And I went to that store, and I couldn't even buy it. I had to go visit it like 2 or 3 times to look at it, to say, is this nice, is this not nice? I can't buy this. Why? Because my idol is security and safety. And my idol demands that I don't spend any money on something frivolous like a ring. It's just going to stay on your hand. I mean, what's that going to do for us, honey? Now, I did go back and buy that ring because I discovered that I had like credit card rewards that I was going to lose if I didn't spend, and so I actually got the ring on half price. But don't tell her that, okay? Right? But even that's my idol demanding from me. Do you see how that might work in your life? That idol demands, because I'm concerned about my security, my safety, and so my idols demand tribute. You know, you can't spend money on stuff that makes sense. You got to keep money so you can save it, because you've got to be secure. Why do we feel all of that so much? Well, because number one, we don't feel good because we're not good. We are guilty. Why don't we feel good? Why don't we feel good? Because we are guilty. We're separated from a God because of our sin. We can't feel good. And even a person who doesn't know that knows there's something wrong. We can all admit there's something wrong. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, we all agree something is wrong. We have different solutions, and none of it seems to be working because that's not what's really wrong. What's really wrong is a broken heart and is separated from God because of our sin. We don't feel good, so we're looking for someone to make us feel good because we're guilty. I don't feel good because I am guilty. Confirmation, am I okay? I want to be okay. Well, I'm not okay because I'm separated from my Creator. I'm separated from God because of my sin. He is so holy and so perfect. He can't be in the presence of sin, and that's all I can bring is my sin. I'm not okay. No matter what the world says, even if I'm, quote, better than the person beside me, they weren't okay in the first place, and being better than them still doesn't make me okay. Am I safe? No, I am not safe. I am condemned. We aren't safe. We are condemned. And that condemnation because of our sin becomes full in force at our death. And it can't be reversed at that point. And yet there is a true God. See, a false God makes promises that they never deliver on. They demand a high tribute, a high cost. We've got to keep paying. And it never produces, but it promises us that, oh, well, I'll get it better the next time. And if we just come back with a little bit more of intensity, a little bit more money, a little bit more focus, then we will be satisfied that next time. And it happens time and time and time again. We are dissatisfied, but we seem to know no other way. But I've got a good news to tell you this morning. There is a true God who makes a promise, who pays the tribute himself, and then keeps that promise. Is that not good news to us today? There is a God who says, no, you're not feeling good because of your sin, but guess what? I've paid for that sin. And I'm going to give you that feeling, not because you deserve it, not because you can create it, but because I've bought it for you. Do you want to be okay? You can be okay because you'll be okay because God won't look at your brokenness. He will look at my son who's perfect and transfer your brokenness to him so that when you appear before God, he doesn't see your messed upness. He sees the perfection of Christ. And it's available to you if you repent and believe. God will impute that to you. He keeps that promise and says, yes, you would have been condemned because of your sin, and that would be for all of eternity, but because of what I have done for you, you can receive that benefit and be just like him. So how do we break this cycle? Why is it that we keep going back to these fake gods when we have a true God who's made these promises, who's not going to disappoint us, and yet we keep turning to all of these other things? How do we break that cycle? Well, there's really only one way. And I think it's becoming familiar with the authentic. Becoming familiar with the authentic, knowing what is real. Years ago, I joined a church staff, and it's exciting to join a church staff, especially a great church staff. It's exciting to do that. And I joined this church, and when I went there, they had their fellowship hall named Moroni Hall. And I don't know that many biblical characters named Moroni. Now, there may be some, but I couldn't find one. And so I didn't know, in our denomination background, we didn't really name stuff after people a whole lot. You know, there are some denominations that do that, but we typically have not done that so much. And so I'm like, why is our fellowship hall called Moroni Hall? And they explained to me, they named it after a guy by the name of Mickey Moroni. And they're like, well, I sure don't know anybody in the Bible by the name of Mickey Moroni. I don't know many Mickeys in the Bible. And so what's the story? Why is this? And they said, well, he was a middle school boys' Sunday school teacher. And like, well, that's a tough job and all. I mean, I get that. That's worthy, I suppose, of having your name after that because, middle school boys, it's kind of challenging, right? I get it. I understand. But that doesn't seem like a level high enough. And they said, well, he was a Secret Service agent. You're like, what? That's good training for a middle school boy Sunday school teacher. I like that. If you're a middle school boy, we love middle school boys, so don't misunderstand. We love you. Y'all are important to the kingdom. You're great. We are thankful for you. We're glad that you're here. Please keep coming. But being a Secret Service agent, not a bad background for that to be a Sunday school. No offense to you guys over there. But what was so great about Mickey? Well, as a Secret Service agent, he would be a part of that counterfeit currency force. And so every year in the middle school boys, he'd bring a suitcase full of $100 bills, full, and put that out in front of the middle school boys Sunday school class. And I'm like, well, that'll leave an impression, right? That'll leave an impression in the middle school girls' room as well, probably, I would think. And he would say this to the boys. He would say, we enforce the law when it comes to currency. You're not in America allowed to print your own currency. That is a no-no, right? You're not supposed to do that. And he pulls them out, and he shows the guys, and he says, now, can you tell me which one of these is fake? Which ones are fake? Which ones are real? And he'd have the boys go through all that money. Even the deacons would walk by and be interested in that kind of meeting, right? Going, what's going on in that room? What's happening there? And he would ask them to go through there, excuse me, and ask them to try to figure out which ones are real, which ones are not. And you know how he taught the boys to do that? He said, well, as a Secret Service agent, all we do is study the real currency. That's what we spend all of our time doing. We don't ever look at a fake bill. We just look at the authentic ones. We study them intently. We see them in time. We smell them. We feel them. We even taste them from time to time, right? Because we want to know what's real so that we are so familiar with what's real, when we run into something that's not real, it is so obvious to us that we can kick it out immediately. Well, we can't necessarily tell you what's wrong with it immediately, but we can tell you there's something wrong with this. It doesn't have the right weight, doesn't have the right texture, it doesn't have the right smell, doesn't have the right look. They typically can't reproduce this thing. That's this identifier on that. And this is how you know what is authentic, because you only study what's authentic. There's going to be lots of fakes out there all the time. And the fakes are going to get better and better, are they not? They're getting better and better. And the only way that we're going to know whether we're following the true God is if we spend all of our time focused on the one true God, to know Him, to know His character, to know what He does, so that we can, well, it won't pass the smell test for us. The reason the hall was named after Mickey was because on April 19th, one of his buddies said, "Hey, I can't come to the office today. Could you fill in for me on this day?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll swap for that day for you." And that was April 19th, 1995. His offices were in the Murrow Building in Oklahoma City. And one day, Mickey walked into a room that he never walked out of. And he did it for a friend. Wasn't even supposed to be his day. Can I tell you, there's going to come a day where you're going to walk into a room and you're not going to walk out. Or they're going to roll you into a room and you're going to be breathing when they roll you in. And some other people are going to roll you out. And I want to know, do you know the one true God? Are you following that one true God? Because you may not make it out of this room today. I've been a pastor for a long time. And I've been in churches where people have passed away in the service. Now, I wasn't preaching, so I don't think it was me. But I've been in 2 church services where a person didn't walk out of the room that they came into. I've been a pastor in another church where the guy died on the way home. He was driving the car and just heart stopped working, and he put his foot on that brake. Last act of kindness and grace and mercy to protect his spouse in the car. He just put his foot on the brake and died at the steering wheel. I'm not going to say that's going to happen to you today, but it could. Are you ready? Because you've been serving the one true God. Are you ready to meet the one true God? Odds are that's not going to happen, right? I mean, odds are it's, maybe just one person in this room. So, I mean, we're probably fine, right? Okay? It's not going to be like a whole row or anything. But we have another command, because we're going to live more time than this. And we have the opportunity to either serve a risen God or to keep serving the fake gods that continue to draw our attention away. So how do we do that? Well, we've got to have dedicated time. We spend our time dedicated to reading His Word to know who He is. We spend our time dedicated with His people. There's something about being with God's people. That's why this room is important. But there's other rooms that are more important than even just this room where we all get in rows. It's in the rooms where we get in circles and we live life with people. Small groups are so important. One of my small group members right now is in a hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. And our small group's meeting again tonight to pray for her. Small groups are important. Be around God's people and be dedicated to His mission, because we spend so much time focused on other missions. They draw our attention and we forget about the one true mission. But when you spend your time concentrating on that which is real, that which is authentic, and know what that is, all those false gods seem to not be as attractive to us. Isn't there an old song, and the things of this world will grow strangely, what? Dim. I'll teach that to the third service too. It'll be fine. We'll get them there, right? But it's how we spend our time to focus on that which is authentic. So let me ask you, are you worshiping false gods, fake gods, because you're not doing these 3 things? I know it's so simple. You know these things. I'm just reminding you of what you already know. But if we don't do these things, we will find our attention and our passion attracted to something else. And we'll be caring more about the Chiefs, and I love the Chiefs, but we shouldn't care more about the Chiefs than the chief of all. We shouldn't spend so much of our energy and effort on what happens with the Royals, because we serve one who is royal. And I love sports. Don't misunderstand me. But are we focusing our time in reading His Word, spending time in His Word? See, we can find our confirmation, our good in Him. Our feeling can be found in Him. It doesn't have to be in how we feel physically. It can be in knowing who we are and what he's done for us. We can find our status there. We can find our okayness in this world, because ultimately this world will never think we're okay when we follow Jesus like we do. They're never going to think we're okay. We're never going to get their approval. And our safety and security is not in what we own. It's not even who we are. It's in whose we are. And we can find our security in him. You see, I'm afraid that all of us are fooled some of the time. And there are some out there who are fooled all the time. Fooled into what? Worshiping fake gods. Would you bow your heads, close your eyes this morning? I wonder if I asked you, and no one else could hear the answer, and I ask you, hey, are there some fake gods you're serving? I'm afraid your answer is probably, yeah, maybe. I'm finding my value in others. I'm finding my value in my grandkids or my job or my status. That's really hard sometimes when you retire as a man to find your status, because it's always been in your job, and now you don't have that. Or I've known some ladies who have found their value in how beautiful they are, and over time just kind of happens, doesn't it? Whatever you're grasping onto for your value is going to be ripped away eventually. So instead of waiting for that moment, why not start worshiping the one true God now? If you've never trusted him for everything, maybe today is the day that you should and begin to. Or maybe this makes some sense now as you begin to help your neighbor understand how they're living and what the call is, because they're looking for the same thing that we're looking for. They're just bowing down to fake gods when you found the real God. And maybe that'll help you love them better into that process. So this morning, whether this is our last room we walk in and out of, or this is just one of many that we'll walk in and out of, let us not spend our time worshiping the fake gods, but instead focusing our attention on the one true God, the one who makes the promise and pays the tribute and delivers. There is not another one except for him. Oh, Father, we thank you for this time that you've given us to worship you, to gather around you, to sing songs of worship to you and for you, to study your word and be reminded of what's been given to us because of Christ. And in this day, may we respond with our life for your glory and for our benefit and the benefit of those who live near us. May we respond to you in obedience. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. And all God's people said.
Amen. Hey, thank you, Neil. What a good word. Man, it's always so appreciate hearing you preach. And really, it dovetails so nicely into this series we've been in, the Strongholds Broken. It's always good to hear a similar theme from a different voice in a different manner. And so we want to respond as we always do. We want to come, we want to sing, we want to bring. So maybe you need to come and lay your stronghold down. Maybe you have seen today that your stronghold is a fake. Something, some idol that you have put too much stock into. You want to come and lay it down. Maybe you want to do it there in your seat. You want to come to the altar. Be great. You want to sing. You know, singing builds our faith, doesn't it? Just singing, hearing others worship around us builds our faith. So you stand in a moment and you sing. That's your response. Others of you as well, you need to bring. You need to bring yourself to the altar. You need to have one of our ministers pray with you. Maybe you need to just physically kneel at the altar and to do business with the Lord. But let's respond to what we've heard. Let's not be one of those people who look in the mirror and we see things are out of place. We're like, well, we'll deal with that later. Let's deal with it today. Let's walk out of here for his glory, our good, and the flourishing of our families. Amen? And so let's all stand together and let's respond. You come, you sing, you bring. Let's respond. You come.